Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to 8 Minutes to Chew On. Nick, good morning.
Hello, Zoe.
You preached a really great sermon yesterday, part two about waiting, which is actually not a funny topic. It's quite serious, and very, very difficult. And this follows up after you spoke about having hope when life just feels like it's in despair. And so I think my first question is, why do you think God puts us in waiting seasons, times where we have to wait on Him?
Yeah, I thought about that while I was actually preparing. I thought, I think I mentioned in one of the services, imagine God was a vending machine.
Yeah.
And you can just put your prayer request in and then kind of say amen and bam, there's the answer. And I thought, how detrimental that will be to our relationship with God. Because all God will become is just something that is there for us and our convenience.
Yeah.
And we'll never really understand the relationship, the trust, building our faith, and just knowing that God is able to take us through the difficult times and get us to the end. I also think we forget that there's free will in the world. We make bad decisions. We have to live through bad decisions of other people, and so it's not like God can just remove everything because there's a lot. It's quite complex actually when you think about it. But I don't think it would be healthy for us personally if God just answered every prayer. I think if you look at a child, what happens to a child when their parents just give them everything they need? They become spoiled brats and they're almost dysfunctional in this world. And I think that there's something about relationship around waiting, trusting, knowing. Ideally we should press into God during our waiting. And I think, imagine we actually did do that. Every time there was a prayer we were waiting, we actually just got deeper into our relationship with God. How much deeper and our relationship with God would be. So, it would be nice if God answers everything like immediately. But I just feel it's relationally going to just have a negative impact. Not sure what the theological answer is.
No, that's good. That's good. It's that concept that only here on earth will we experience that pain and sorrow and waiting, because when we get to heaven, we're not going to get that. And so only now do we then have the opportunity to press deeper into God and really rely on Him. And so
I just want to say one of the things I found is that sometimes in the waiting you change.
Sure. That's good.
And I think that's where we'll always miss that. If God had to answer every prayer, it will be probably the emotional stuff we ask for in the most emotional times. But it's often when you going through something and there's some time and waiting that you start to process it and think through it and question your own behavior, your own thinking, and it transforms you a lot of times in that waiting, and a lot of times I find that what I ask for in the moment is very different to what I'm asking for in 2 months' time. Because something's happened. God has worked in my heart. I see a different perspective, and so I don't know. Sometimes God knows best. And I think we like I said, it's complex, but God knows best. We have to just trust God in the process.
Yes. That's so good. And so with that, and with then learning to trust God and leaning into His character, what would you say then to the person who is in the midst of waiting? They're frustrated. They're ready to just throw in the towel. What would you say to that person?
I think that the most important thing is make sure that your relationship with God is growing. Like I mentioned yesterday, I think the devil knows how powerful some of these practical things are and keeps us from them. Spending good time in the Word and reading about people in the Bible that had similar challenges. That encourages you. You see how God works, and you see, reading about the character of God, going to do a Bible study on the love of God, or the goodness of God, or the providence of God in those times. Transform your heart and your mind, and you start to understand who God is and what you can trust Him for. Prayer, spending good time in just talking to God about a situation. I did mention yesterday, our prayer time isn't a to-do list. We're not giving a to-do list to God. And I really want to encourage people not to give God a to-do list, because I think what discourages us at the end of the day, because we almost saying to God, God, please would you help me out? But this is how you must do it. And if you don't do it this way, I'm not going to be happy.
Yeah.
God's far wiser. God knows far more
Thank goodness,
of how to fix a problem for you than you giving him a to-do list. So it's a good time of prayer and just talking to God and being thankful. Letting God, just reminding yourself and thanking God for what he's done in the past.
Yeah.
And I think worship and praise, that garment of praise for spirit of heaviness is a spiritual matter. It's a and if we're honest with ourselves, when we go through our tough times, we do feel that spirit of the heaviness. We do feel it, hope fading and joy fading and all that. And the Bible gives us such a practical way to deal with that, and that is to get into a good time of praise and worship. So when you distill all that, make sure that you have good quiet times. That's it.
Sure.
Have good quiet times. Get into the word, pray, worship. And make sure that's a priority while you're going through your tough times. And you'll see how those things will encourage you. And give you, Ephesians, when it talks about the armor of God, it ends, it says, when you've done everything to stand. And I feel it's almost like this, when you got in the word and you're praying and you're worshiping God and you're doing all that, well then just stand. And just wait.
Sure.
God's going to come through for you, So that would be my advice. I don't know what to say.
That's good. And the funny thing is, what you mentioned in your sermon yesterday, is that often when we are in the midst of waiting, the last thing that you do is turn to God. You get so distracted and you try and do it yourself, and then you're frustrated because God, you're not in the presence of God.
And it's true, because when you don't think about the outcome of those activities. So we think read the Bible, pray, and worship. Okay, cool. Let me go through but when you read what I covered yesterday, the word strengthens your faith. That's the outcome. So we do the activity, but the outcome is strengthening your faith. Prayer brings you peace. So the outcome is peace. So the prayer is important, but it's the peace you're actually looking for. And then the that was the last one I covered. Worship. The Bible tells us that spirit of heaviness is defeated and crushed through praise and worship. And so, although the activities that we kind of go, oh well, I do pray and we forget the outcome of those activities, and that's what we're looking for in our moments that we're going through the valley. So that's what we must remind ourselves. When I feel down and I feel this dimming, okay, the answer is worship. If I feel I don't have peace, the answer is prayer. If I feel like my faith is waning, the answer is getting to the word. And so it's quite practical, actually.
Sure. That's so good. And that's what we want to encourage you with today as you're going into your week, is just then remember the result. Remember what the waiting is going to bring out of this. And then join us at church on Sunday. We'd love to see you. We'd love to see you there. Until next week.